Welcome. Hello, and thank you for joining this Farm Africa live webinar. This coincides with the COP26 Global Climate Conference that our leaders are attending in Glasgow. And we will be focusing this webinar around building farmers' resilience to climate extremes. I am your host, Petronella Halwiindi, Country Director for Farm Africa in Uganda, and I'm calling in from Kampala. Just before we get started, I want to let you know that this webinar is being recorded. So if you happen to drop off the webinar, do try the link again and see if you can connect. If you continue to experience any technical glitches, don't worry, as this is being recorded and it will be shared with you afterwards. Also, if you experience any difficulty with the picture or sound quality from our speakers, please be patient with us and we will try to rectify this as soon as possible. We're taking your questions for the panel today, so do submit these questions using the Q&A function on Zoom. That will be the one at the bottom and not the chat. And you're welcome to submit your questions at any point during the webinar. Please tell us your name when asking a question, or feel free to keep it anonymous. Our apologies if we don't get around to answering your question, but we will try and answer as many as we can in the time that we have. Now, moving on to introduce our panelists. Without further ado, I want to start by introducing Charles. Charles, please introduce yourself.
Yes, hello, Petronella. Thank you so much, and hi, everyone. My name is Charles Kainkwa. I work with an organization called Farm Africa, and my role is technical services specialist, and I am broadcasting from Tanzania. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. We move on to Asaye.
Yeah, thank you, Petronella, and good afternoon, all. This is Asaye Asnake, working for Farm Africa as a senior program manager. I manage about 5 projects here in Ethiopia. Thank you.
Thank you, Asaye. Thank you, panel. The entire African continent has contributed just about 2.8% of cumulative carbon dioxide emissions to date, which is extraordinary when compared to the United Kingdom at 4.7%, Germany at 5.5%, China 13.3%, and the US at 24.8%. That alarming statistic was taken from Our World in Data based on the Global Carbon Project. Despite having done so little to contribute to climate change, rural communities across sub-Saharan Africa are some of the people suffering the worst of its effects. In Eastern Africa, unpredictable weather patterns and climate extremes are threatening farmers and pastoralists who rely on rainfall to feed livestock, grow crops, and make a living from agriculture. Farm Africa is helping rural communities to gain access to the skills, knowledge, inputs, and access to finance they need to build resilience to climate change. In dryland areas, we're helping pastoralists to restore grasslands and introduce higher yielding breeds of livestock so they are able to reduce the size of their herds and reduce pressure on the grasslands. We're helping smallholder farmers to adopt climate-smart agriculture techniques, such as those our speakers will be discussing today. I would now like to hand over to Charles, but before he does that, we want to show you a video of our work in Tanzania.
In the dry region of Dodoma in Tanzania, the majority of the population works in farming and relies on rainfall to feed livestock and grow crops. Many smallholder farmers here grow sorghum to feed their families. It's a staple crop used to make the Tanzanian national dish of ugali, a stiff porridge made with sorghum flour, which is served with beans, vegetable, or meat. But an increasingly volatile climate is cutting yields and endangering food security.
Kwa hivi karibuni nimeona changamoto ya tabia ya nchi, kwa mfano mvua zikawa chache na hali ya hewa ikawa si nzuri kwa mazao tunayolima.
With support from Irish Aid and the World Food Programme, Farm Africa is helping sorghum farmers in Dodoma switch to improved varieties of sorghum that are more tolerant of climate extremes and adopt production practices suited to the changing climate.
Farm Africa imeweza kunisaidia kupata mbegu bora ya uhakika, lakini pia mafunzo nimeweza kunisaidia kwamba nilime kilimo bora ili niweze kuepukana na hali ya tabia nchi.
And by connecting farmers with businesses that sell tarpaulins for drying and sacks for storage and training cooperatives in crop processing and storage, the project is helping to cut food waste, which is good news for farmers' income and good news for the environment. Food waste is a major source of carbon emissions. We are also helping farmers find new buyers such as breweries for their sorghum.
The prices of sorghum has increased. Farmers are getting more income. Example, farmers were selling 1 kilo by 300 and now the price per kilo has changed up to 550. This has the implication of farmers getting more income and they are able now to send their children to school, they are building their good houses, and they are getting the nutritious food at their household level.
We are also helping farmers develop other sources of income such as keeping livestock or growing vegetables outside of the sorghum growing season. Income diversification reduces the risks posed by the climate extremes. Farmers taking part in the project are now better placed to deal with the challenges thrown their way by climate change.
Mtama ni chakula. Mtama una kipato. Mtama unavumilia ukame. Kabla ya mradi nilikuwa sina kipato kikubwa kama sasa. Najua akinisogeza vizuri huu mradi, najua nitakuwa vizuri tu, maisha yangu yatakuwa vizuri tu.
Thank you. I would now like to hand over to Charles, who's going to speak more about that work in Tanzania.
Yeah, thank you, Petronella. Just to begin, Farm Africa is working in Tanzania on the central region of Dodoma, which is mostly very being affected by climate change, because it's one of a region where they receive a very little rain when you compare with other regions of Tanzania. So Farm Africa has been introducing sorghum because it's climate tolerant. So farmers can have that as a replacement crop. That means it looks at security, food security, but also nutrition. Next slide, please. Marian, next slide. So Farm Africa, as I said, Farm Africa has been introducing the project in the central part of Tanzania, which is Dodoma, to reach out to 13,000 farmers who are smallholder farmers. So that is one of the criteria. And then we are looking at improving their food security, but also nutrition through increasing their productivity, but also income and then diversification. And then we are targeting 4 districts, which is Bai, Kondoa, Kongwa, and Mpwapwa. Now we have a new district, which is Chemba. The project looks at 4 objectives. Number 1 is to introduce climate smart agriculture services and products, which includes things like improved seeds, which can eventually relate more the harsh environment, of that area. Number two is that we are looking at the storage. As you have seen in the video, one of the biggest contributor of the carbon increase is the loss, the food loss, which usually happens at the stage of storage, but also at the stage of harvesting. So also Farm Africa introduces those kind of either services or practices, which means post-harvest loss handling. And then number four is looking at the collaboration, creating collaboration between the project itself or program itself with the government initiative. That means we are also collaborating a lot, not only with the central government, but also the local government, which includes district, the village government, which also they are the ones who are owning the village collection centers. So we are also utilizing them to see whether farmers can store their sorghum or their produce in those infrastructures. And then the last part is looking at the gender equality. One of the biggest challenge, especially with the rural areas, is that most of the farmers, there is no equality when it comes to women, involvement of women and youth within the value chain. So also the project also reaches out to that group which is forgotten, which is usually forgotten when looking at such projects. Next slide. So towards COP26, Farm Africa, together with Norwich Scotland, proposed to do 2 dialogues in the area that I just mentioned, Dodoma region. And then we decided to do 2 dialogues which were looking at the role of women, but also youth within the value chain of sorghum, what are their challenges, what are the opportunities that they can utilize. And then we can also see the role of women and also youth that they are playing within the value chain.
I see that we have lost Charles. Are you back, Charles? Okay,
yeah, I'm back.
Please do continue.
Yeah. So I was introducing that we did some dialogues towards COP26. We did some dialogues in the region of Dodoma. And these are some of the findings that we got from the dialogues. I will start with the challenges. Number one is that there is inadequate knowledge of good agricultural practices. We know that the good agricultural practices also helps farmers to adopt within the climate effects that are happening within the areas. Now, most of the farmers in Dodoma are having that problem. That's number one. Number two is the lack of motivation to register groups. Usually farmers, when they are in groups, they not only they get assistance or services from such NGOs like Farm Africa or others, but also they are getting
Okay, it seems we are having glitches with Charles's connection, but just to run through what he's intending to communicate is that some of the challenges identified were that the mindsets of farmers, that the price systems are not fair, government levies, and gender equality as being some of the major challenges. He is back now, and you can move on to the opportunities, Charles.
Yeah, thank you so much. On the opportunities, some of the opportunities that we saw is that number one, sorghum can be a replacement crop, especially with Tanzania, whereby ugali is the most consumed kind of food, whereby most of people use maize to make ugali. So sorghum is also one of those crops that can be used to make such a dish. And then number two, there's also contract farming. In the video, you can see that those farmers who are in groups, usually they benefit from getting good contracts with good price. But then they need to be in a group, whereby some of our groups that we are working with them in Dodoma, we have connected them to one of the biggest off-taker, who is the brewery company. And then there is also 10% that is given by the local government through groups which are created by smallholder farmers or smaller producers. We are also using that opportunity. And then the last thing is the off-season activities to contribute into the nutrition part of the smallholder farmers. Not only they will depend on sorghum, they will also have diversification into other crops. Next slide, last slide. Now, you can see there are two photos. Number one, there is a lady on left-hand side. She's one of the ladies that we are working with in Kondoa district, in Kainkwa village, and their group is called Nguvukazi Farmer Group. So you can see she's holding vegetables, which is one of the off-season activity. And then on the right-hand side, you can see Mshikamano Farmer Group, which is in Mpwapwa district. They just came from training on post-harvest handling, and then you can see they're holding some of the pig's parts, and then that is it. So thank you so much, Petronella.
Thank you very much, Charles. We move straight on to Asaye to talk about the climate resilience work in Ethiopia. You can unmute yourself, Asaye.
Yes. Thank you very much, Petronella. Good afternoon, participants. Thank you for your attention. I'm gonna focus on climate smart agriculture and joint forest management in Ethiopia. First, to the challenges on both thematic areas, that's agriculture and forest management. The main challenges are the natural resource depletion, which means loss of forest resources for different purposes, soil erosion, soil fertility loss. These are really some of the natural resource depletion challenges that we have. We have also vulnerability to climate change. Climate change is a global issue. When you come to its effect, specifically in agriculture, extreme weather pattern, it may be high or low rainfall, or inconsistent rain pattern that leads to drought and flooding. And there is also a suitable condition for pests and disease outbreak due to climate change. The other is there is poor agricultural technology and practices that can cope up, the extreme weather conditions in general. And then we have also limited capacity of farmers in implementing, different agricultural technologies. All this leads to low agricultural yield and low income, which resulted in food insecurity and poor resilience, as well as high greenhouse gas emission or carbon dioxide, methane, and etc. Next. So in order to address those multiple challenges, we just follow an integrated landscape approach. A landscape is a huge ecosystem that includes really different sub-regions. And we identify challenges, problems at landscape level. And then we tried to devise response solutions for identified challenges in relation to agriculture due to climate change and natural resource depletion. Under the big integrated landscape approach, we take climate smart agriculture as an approach to address agriculture productivity issue and emission of greenhouse gases to the atmosphere as well. And we engage private sector specifically for provision of agricultural inputs, as well as agricultural product marketing. We are also focusing on women empowerment, specifically in agriculture. When you say empowerment, more focus on economic empowerment, we build capacity of our smallholder farmers so that they can really apply new technologies in their conventional agriculture system. And the other most important point is, in order to address the issue of forest degradation, we engage community in a kind of participatory way to manage their forests, and again, of course, have a benefit out of it. Next. So let me go in detail to the climate smart agriculture. We call it CSA. It helps farmers to increase agricultural productivity while adapt to climate change and also mitigate greenhouse gas emission. So it has triple benefits. What we have done with farmers, with smallholder farmers, is the first one, we build, the capacity of farmers through training. We focus on practical trainings on climate smart agriculture using demonstration plot, farmer demonstration plot, not of course research plots, farmer demonstration plot, as you can see in the picture. And after we built, the capacity of farmer in different, by providing different session of trainings, then we use those demonstration plot to introduce and apply a bundle of CSA practices that can boost productivity of agricultural crops while they adapt to extreme climate conditions. Some of the CSA practices are, we facilitate to supply drought resistance, high yielding crop varieties. We use organic fertilizer rather than chemical. We use composting, using vermicompost. We use improved agricultural practices like lime planting, rather than, as you can see on the picture, this is a chickpea. That's really done in line, but farmers, they just broadcast previously. We use also agroforestry and soil and water management practices. A number of bundle of CSA practices are applied at demo plot level. We teach farmers on how to apply it. We see how it progresses up to harvest, and then we conduct farmers field day, so that a number of neighboring farmers can really get the practices and apply on it. Next. The other activities that we have included is, as the topic is climate smart, so we need to really disseminate and inform our farmers about the weather conditions through SMS and mobile app. So we are really moving from conventional way of implementing agriculture to climate informed practices and action. As you can see, this lady, she used her mobile phone and get timely market as well as weather information, so as to undertake informed agricultural practices, and of course aware about the different risks timely, so as to address the issue as well. And the other is we facilitate agricultural input and product marketing. We engage agricultural input suppliers like agro dealers. We are also working with farmers cooperative and union. As you can see in the picture, we built a system that can ensure agricultural input supply after the project. So, farmer cooperatives, private sectors are engaged so as to address the issue of input shortage quality as well. Next. So we have really done that. That's really our key intervention. What are really the results? The first one is we brought attitudinal change. We transferred the knowledge and the skill. Accordingly, an average household currently practice up to 10 climate smart agricultural practices. Because of that, agricultural crop yield increased by 123%. One of our high value crops engaged is hot pepper, and the yield increased from 500 kilogram to 1,300 kilogram per hectare. It's really a huge move. And we are also linked, this producer to the potential market, and their household income is increased by 97%. So we built resilient community. The household is food secure. And the poor household send their children by fulfilling, every school material. And they are also creating additional asset and income that enabled the household to run additional businesses on top of agriculture. Next. The second component is how we can really protect deforestation. We engage communities in the forest management practice. Previously, the government was trying to protect specifically the protected forests using, guards and others as well. And deforestation rate has been really increased significantly. So we introduced joint forest management practices. We engage community and government to jointly manage the forest resource. We provide full ownership for the community in managing their forest, as well as they will going to have really a joint benefit sharing mechanism from the results as well. We built their capacity in terms of forest management, monitoring, capacity of government staff through training, as well as community through training. We are also engaging in promoting other livelihood activities like forest coffee development and beekeeping, as you can see in the pictures. Finally, the result from the joint forest management, engaging community in forest management brings to reduce the deforestation, the annual deforestation rate by 65%. This means 25,133 hectares of forest land has been really saved. Of course, this is not annual, but it's by the work done for 6 years. Because of saving, 25,133 hectares of forest land, we are enabled to reduce, the emission of carbon dioxide by 11.5 million metric ton of carbon dioxide emission has been really avoided. And because of the companies that we have really contacted, communities earned income from sale of carbon credits. It's really in more than 11 million euro has been really sold to the carbon credit. We have got really carbon credit, that one, and we have really shared the benefit from carbon credit to the community. The other area of income for the community from the forest is from control hunting, about USD 434,782. USD has been really earned. Previously, it was the government who earned the whole amount of money, but now 60% of the revenue that we get from control hunting goes directly to the community. All this contributed to increased household income and building resilience community while really contributing to reduce greenhouse emission to the atmosphere. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Charles and Asaye. Now we can go over to the panel discussion. Audience, please remember that you can submit your questions at any point during the Q&A using the Q&A function on Zoom. Remember, it is the Q&A function and not the chat, and we'll be able to respond to your questions. Now let's kick off to the discussion. Clearly, between the two of you, could one of you explain what are the main impacts from climate change on food production in East Africa? Charles, do you want to take that?
Yes, please. So for Tanzania, especially the place that the project is being implemented, the biggest challenge is drought because the area is central part of Tanzania, whereby the area does not receive a lot of rain or enough rain for other crops to survive. That is why Farm Africa has introduced sorghum as being climate resilient crop. That's number one. Number two is that recently Tanzania has a region. So that has changed the population. So giving a lot of population pressure on agriculture, because agriculture provides a lot of provides food for those people who are coming and settling in that area. And the last part is the malnutrition, because most of the farmers will decide to sell the crops because of the population and because of urbanization. They will sell their crops instead of keeping it for their own food security and also nutrition. That is on the side of Tanzania. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charles. Looking at these adverse effects of climate change, Asaye, would you want to respond on how we can curb emissions from agriculture and reduce its greenhouse gas emissions globally?
Yeah, thank you very much, Petronella. You know, as I said, we are really using two approaches. The first one is using climate smart agriculture. In doing, climate smart agriculture, we have really tried to inform our farmers to adopt climate extremes so that they can really boost their productivity while adapting to climate change. On the other hand, they are really using different technologies that can contribute positively to the atmosphere. And of course, reduce sequester carbon in the soil specifically. So rather than really using chemical fertilizer, we are really facilitating some kind of organic fertilizer that reduces really the emission of different gases because of the use of different chemicals. On the other hand, we use agroforestry so that we are really using different legumes that can fix nitrogen from the atmosphere, as well as improve really the soil condition. So we improve really the soil that leads to carbon sequestration in the soil. So because of that, we reduce really the carbon emission from agriculture. On the other hand, as I mentioned in the joint forest management, we engage, communities to reduce deforestation. Deforestation is one of the major factors that contributes to emission of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. So we engage communities and reduce really deforestation by ensuring joint forest management system, and of course benefiting the community from the joint forest management systems that we have done.
Thank you very much, Asaye. It would be good to really begin to pick on some of the questions that the audience have raised. But probably before we go there, one quick question. Yesterday, we heard from COP26 leaders talking about commitments to reducing deforestation. How does that make you feel, Asaye, especially that you're a forester?
Yeah, I'm really very much happy. It engages really a huge effort to bring the community in a kind of group or a cooperative, so as to identify really the issues why forests are really removed, and why what are really the benefits by engaging the community to reduce really deforestation. We have passed through a number of challenges, but finally we have really able to demonstrate really the reduction in the forest, the reduction in deforestation, as well as the biggest celebration. We were really expecting, we reduce deforestation and then we inform our farmers, you're gonna get really a kind of carbon money. And now we really thank for volunteers like EcoAct, they bought, the carbon that we have already saved, and we have really distributed in millions of Ethiopian birr to our community, and they are really very much happy. Now they are engaging in different businesses so as to really more benefit from the money they got. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Asaye. Now to pick up on the questions from the audience, we have Joseph Apia, who is a livelihoods and food security specialist from Lira, northern Uganda. And he says that there has been climate extremes, especially in the first season of this year. What is being done and what are the appropriate climate smart, sustainable technologies being promoted by Farm Africa, especially in Uganda? I know that Asaye and Charles are both not operating in Uganda, but I can provide a brief response to Joseph's question. Being in Uganda, we are promoting climate smart agriculture techniques that really focus on the biggest challenges that are facing the region. So when we have drought, we will promote technologies that help to retain more water in the soil. We are promoting an integrated agricultural system. We have in Lira, particularly a chilies project there, where in the last 2 seasons, we noticed that farmers had low yields because of the drought that happened. And so this season, we took advantage of the climate smart technologies to ensure that we improved water retention, and the harvest right now looks pretty good. Next question, I will take the question from Alamokola Komba, who says, Farm Africa as an organization, Do you have a plan to advocate on the environmental policies so that they can be among the tools to reduce their emissions? I will send that question to Asaye because Ethiopia has been working very closely with the government in Ethiopia to try and curb carbon emissions. Asaye?
Yeah. We have a document, what we call CRGE, Climate Resilience Green Economy. So in that document, we are really putting a policy and a clear statement to reduce carbon emission from different sectors. As I said, we have really a very clear policy in the CRG. The CRG focus in specifically in agriculture, in the forestry sector, and other industrial sectors as well. So every sector will gonna contribute, will gonna really work to in line with creating climate resilience green economy. So that's really the way how it looks like in short. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Asaye. And Joseph Wundala says, nice discussion, and he has a question. As highlighted, most of the challenges are the post-harvest losses. I think that could refer to Charles. Charles, pick up on that. His focus is on processing machines. Most of smallholder farmers are in off-grid areas with no energy access. Is there an opportunity for advancing renewable energy in those areas for those value chains? Is it feasible in our African context? Which strategies does Farm Africa have to help farmers in this scope? So I think he's concerned with machinery and access to power. How are we mitigating those challenges? Charles.
Yeah, thank you, Petronella. Thank you, Joseph, for the question. So from Africa, we usually mobilize farmers together, as I said, in groups, and we usually bring in different players. One of those players usually are the mechanization service providers, including other service providers also. But we have, in this project, we have never introduced such technology that Joseph is talking about, whereby it uses renewable energy, but I understand the idea. The idea of post-harvest handling, the technology that we are introducing usually is the simple technology that a smallholder farmer can afford and can use. Things like pig's bags, things like tarpaulins, for them to make sure that there is no food loss in between. But just to say there is a potential, and because we are working in Dodoma, I will answer the second part of that question, which asks about the context. Dodoma is one of the very windy region. Renewable energy can be one of the renewable energy can be wind energy. So yes, I see that potential, and there is a big context in towards that. Thank you, Petronella.
Thank you, thank you. And on the Ugandan side, the Chili's project is implementing solar dryers that are made locally by local artisans using local materials to help with drying chilies for export quality. So there are simple technologies that can be used even within our context. We don't have to go very, very big, but we need to begin now with what is available. We'll pick Dan Collison's question, and he addresses it to Asaye. He's saying, do you think that those impressive increases in yields that you reported, Asaye, and incomes will be sustainable into the future? Do the changes in farming inputs and practices peak during the period of project implementation and then drop off, or do they continue?
Thank you very much, Petronella. Thank you, Dan. I can say yes. we ensure sustainability because we are really working on building the capacity of farmers in terms of building their capacity, skill, knowledge in implementing climate smart agriculture. Currently, we have really some kind of evidence, like, you know, it's really replicable by other, it's really outscaled by other farmers. Even farmers who were part of the beneficiary of the project are now really educating neighboring farmers. And farmer-to-farmer extension has been really expanded. And currently, there is a sustainability to continue such kind of impressive results across the community. In relation to agricultural input supply, we have really tried to build a system, you know, a system that can ensure sustainability. We engage private sector on cost share basis so as to provide agricultural input supply to producers. And currently, we have really seen a very clear evidence of sustainability because their area of coverage. We establish one agro dealer in one district, and now that agro dealer covers up to 6 districts. That shows really a very clear system building that ensures sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Asaye. We have one more question. Well, we have a number of questions. We have Joseph Wundala, who's also referring to Asaye's deck. He says, I see that you use mobile apps, SMSs, etc. to track the value chain variables. Most of these communities are located in deep remote parts of Africa with no access to internet or telecom towers. How do you solve this to keep your database or information up to date?
While we disseminate agro-advisory services and weather information, as well as market information, we engage local universities, local higher institutions, so as to develop a digital platform whereby, you know, the names and the mobile number are already recorded in those universities. And the university is responsible to disseminate timely information, specifically on SMS. Mobile apps are used for extension workers and cooperative leaders, but SMS, smallholder farmers are also used. On top of, as you said, you know, most farmers, they may not have really mobile phones even. So what we have really done is we, if we find one mobile phone holder, and then, you know, we tried to organize up to 20 neighboring farmers so that mobile holder who receive regular SMS on market information and weather information disseminate further to 10 to 20 farmers, so that if we have 1,000, then we reach up to 20,000 farmers. Thank you.
Thank you, Asaye. Question from Jaivir Singh. I hope I pronounced that right. He asks, what influence has globalization had on the environment, resulting in farming issues in Africa in particular? What are those issues that globalization has had on the environment, and what are the resulting farming issues in Africa?
Yeah, if I can start. So one of the effects of globalization that we can see, a good example is Dodoma, whereby settlement has been introduced, is the loss of diversity, meaning we don't have any more native trees, we don't have native animals, because animals we don't want to be disturbed by human activity. So usually that happens when you start a new farm. That's what happens. And then number two is that other effect is that when population increases, usually there is a lot also of food waste or food loss. That's what we are also, Farm Africa is also doing, because, for example, loss is 15%. When you have bigger population, that 15% becomes bigger. So that is basically what we have experienced in Tanzania. Thank you.
Thank you. Javier also asks, what are your thoughts on multinational companies that take down trees? Is there a need for regulatory bodies in Africa? I like that question. Who would want to take that, especially that COP26 is on? What do we need regulatory bodies in Africa?
Yeah, I really totally agree on that. But currently, for example, the experience here in Ethiopia, we have a regulatory body for any investment that use, the cutting down of that use the land already covered by trees. It has to really pass to a kind of approval, by relevant government bodies, which you mentioned as a regulatory body. So unless it's really have a kind of permission from that regulatory body, it will not be really, the forests will not be extracted or removed from the land. So in general, I think in order to strengthen, the regulatory body across regions, countries, I think it's really good to have one regulatory body at Africa level. Thank you.
Certainly. Regulatory body is very important. I think that's why we're having these conversations. We are already reaping the results of inaction. So we really hope that we will be able to regulate on climate change even closer. I'm afraid we're almost out of time. Our apologies if we didn't get to respond to your question. Again, this webinar has been recorded and will be accessible shortly on the Farm Africa website at www.farmafrica.org/FarmAfricaLive. Thank you very much to our panelists, and thank you very much to our audience for watching and for joining us. See you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Goodbye.